Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Ehsaan, and I am going to continue the lecture series organized by Babul in Bani Hashim Society of Mississauga, Ontario, this Ramadan 2022. Our topic thus far has been, it's been 3 days that we've been talking about this topic, and the topic that I've chosen is about societal well-being, which means the roadmap to self-purification at the societal level and not just at the individual level. As we know, Islam is a religion that outlines various concepts and rulings, not just at the individual level, but for the community at large and for the society at large as well. So this is what we've been doing. We talked about um, how our relationship should be to neighbors. We defined what basically is a neighbor. Then we talked about how our relationship and our contribution should be towards the community and its members. We also talked about, in the third lecture, we also talked about gadgets and social networking tools that we have available and how should we conduct ourselves so as to make sure that we are not being oblivious to our duties towards others. Today is an interesting aspect of societal well-being as well, and today we are going to talk about Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar. We will talk about what they are. So the what of Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, the why, like why is it important? Why should we do it? And thirdly would be how should we do it? What is the proper way to perform these acts? So it's actually part of, so we all know that in religion of Islam, we have two concepts. One is the roots of religion, principles of religion, or usul ad-din, and the second category is furu ad-din, or roots or furu ad-din, which is the branches of religion. So we're gonna these two topics, which is Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahy Anil Munkar, they fall under the furu ad-din, which is the branches of religions. As always, we'll start with a Quranic verse, and it's from chapter number 3, which is Surah Al Imran, in verse number 104. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. I'm going to translate this. There has to be a nation among you summoning to the good, bidding what is right, and forbidding what is wrong. And it is they who are the felicitous. So in short, this verse is really talking about how Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahy Anil Munkar is actually important. And one of the benefits that it outlines is that those people who do it will be felicitous, meaning they will be fortunate, they will be happy, they will be blessed. So just the mere fact that it is present as a command in the Quran should be sufficient for us to actually perform this. But we will talk about the importance of these two acts in detail as well. So in terms of in order to define Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahy Anil Munkar, what is Amar bil Ma'ruf? What is Nahy Anil Munkar? Let's talk about the literal meaning first, because that will help us in understanding this concept as well. So Amar bil Ma'ruf, as you can see, is two words joined together. Amar basically means order, or to encourage, or to bid something. Command something. And then when it's joined with ma'ruf, ma'ruf basically means something that is good. So Amar bil Ma'ruf basically means encouraging what is good, or ordering what is good. Similarly, Nahi Anil Munkar are also two words joined together. Nahi means to prohibit, to forbid, and Al Munkar means what is wrong or what is evil. So when you're saying Nahi Anil Munkar, you're saying forbidding or prohibiting what is evil. So basically, Amar bil Ma'ruf would become enjoining what is good, or encouraging what is good, and Nahy Anil Munkar will become prohibiting or forbidding what is wrong and evil. So this is exactly the concept as well, right? So when you, it's a concept where folks are encouraged to spread the truth. We already know we have a responsibility to spread the truth. We have a responsibility to not only identify what is good and what is evil, but also to make sure that we spread the word and we advise others to do good as well. Similarly, forbidding evil means you're advising others to keep away from the evil so that these actions are not spread in the society. Now, these two actions can be done with family, they can be done with your friends, your neighbor at a community level, as well as the society at large. And that's why it is part of this lecture series as well, because we're talking about how can we achieve that societal well-being, right? How can we do certain actions? What are responsibilities towards not just ourselves, but the community at large? Right? So these two actions in particular, they relate to others, right? More than yourself. Obviously, you have to, there are certain conditions before you can actually carry out these things, and we will study those conditions as well. But they definitely have the definitely have a focus towards the society at large, because you are actually advising others, the other folks, to promote the goodness in the society, and at the same time you're also trying to make sure that people are keeping away from evil and wrongful acts. Now, in other words, in order to talk about the benefits or the importance, we've already seen one verse, one Quranic verse talk about it, but here's another Quranic verse. It's from Surah At-Tawbah, chapter number 9, verse number 71, in which Allah outlines the benefits of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. And he goes, and I translate, and the believers, men and women, are protecting friends of one another. They enjoin what is right, and they forbid what is wrong. They establish the prayer, give the zakah, obey Allah and His apostle. It is they to whom Allah will soon grant His mercy. Indeed, Allah is Almighty, All-Wise. So we just focus on an end quote. If we just focus on this verse, then we see Allah Ta'ala is actually talking about the benefits and the importance of performing this act. Number one is that these are the believers who are actually protecting their friends. They're protecting them from what? They're protecting them from hellfire, because if they were to do wrongful acts and continue doing so, they would probably end up in hellfire. And that's why when someone is advising them to enjoin good or to do what is right, they're actually keeping them away from hellfire. And then he talks about like what are some of the good things that they do, some of the characteristics or attributes of these people who are actually performing this, as well as that they do all the good deeds, like, say the prayer, give zakah, and obey Allah and His apostle. And then obviously Allah Ta'ala also is saying that people who do this will be rewarded. How? They will be rewarded with His mercy, right? So again, the Ahlul Bayt have also greatly encouraged us to perform these two actions, which are part of the Furu'e Deen, or branches of the religion. For example, one narration from Rasulullah said, "My nation will always be with goodness as long as its people enjoin good and forbid evil, and assist one another in piety. If they do not do that, then blessings will be taken away from them, and your evil ones will be imposed over you, and there will be no helper for them on the earth or in the sky." Now, this is such a wonderful narration, and really talks in detail, or in summary at least. It gives us a very good and deep message here as well. We see like lots of nations who are falling short and they're not able to develop. It is because people have lost the direction. They don't know what is good and what is evil anymore. And that's why the blessings have been taken away from them, right? And their rulers are evil, they're corrupt, and they're not able to progress at all, right? So Rasulullah is actually saying that, he's trying to emphasize the importance from another angle. He's trying that people who will do it, it will actually help people gain piety. And when they do that, blessings will remain with them, or they will be showered with more blessings. But if they do not do that, then blessings will be taken away, and corrupt leaders will become their rulers, and they will, snatch away anything that they may have left. So again, a very serious narration that talks about the importance of these two actions. So now we know the what. So we have defined both these concepts. We know why it's important, talked about the benefits. We've talked about the blessings that would result as a result of these two actions. We've talked about how society is impacted when you do certain actions, or when you carry out these two actions. But can anyone do it? Can anyone just stand up one day and say, okay, this is what you need to do, and start advising people that this is what you need? I mentioned in the start that no, there are some conditions that must be met before you can actually carry out these actions. It's very important to understand those two conditions, these conditions that I'm going to outline. Right now, there are about at least 5 conditions that must be met, right? Or at least the conditions that I'm going to be talking about, at least 5 conditions that must be met before you can go ahead and start advising people to do what is good, and to forbid them from what is wrong. So number 1, pretty obvious, the person who's doing it has to know what is good. He has to have an absolute sense of where the good is. And then obviously vice versa, like he has to know what is evil as well, what is wrongful, what constitutes a wrongful act. Even if it is only in a general sense, they're supposed to know what is good and evil. So a knowledge of what is good and what is evil. And it may sound simple, but it's actually pretty common that people don't know what is good and evil, and they start, they start preaching others, or they start, telling people that, don't do this because it's an evil act. So it's really important that the person who's trying to do this has a responsibility, and so they need to make themselves aware of what is good and what is evil. Number 2, once they know what is good and evil, they also should have some glimmer of hope that whatever advice they will give to another person will have some impact on the wrongdoer. So if they already know that, okay, this wrongdoer, no matter what I tell him, they'll continue to do whatever they've been doing in the past, then there is no benefit. Then you don't even need to try if you know for sure that this person is not going to pay heed to what you're saying. And this is a very critical condition. So you just leave them be. You don't want to go ahead and advise people who don't want to listen to you, right? If it will have no impact whatsoever, if you know for sure, then there's no point in carrying out this action. Number 3, the person who's trying to do this should not be in danger as a result of this, or it should not be in danger of any significant harm being inflicted on them as a result of this, on his reputation, on his life, on his health, on his wealth. That person should be safe and should feel safe when he's trying to do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Amr bil Munkar. If you have a fear that your life would be in danger, or you would be damaged or injured in any way, then you should not go ahead and do this. Number 4, so first 3 conditions were really on the person, right? On the doer was trying to advise people, trying to enjoin good and forbid evil. So person should know what is good and evil. Person should have some hope that it will impact the wrongdoer. And then 3 is that they should not be in any kind of danger as a result of this. Right? So everything is the 3 conditions on the person who's trying to do this. The other 2, the other 2 conditions I'm going to talk about is actually focusing on the wrongdoer. So number 1 is wrongdoer must intend to continue doing the improper and wrong action. So if you know that, okay, this wrongdoer is only doing it, on a temporary basis, and he is going to rectify himself later on. He's not going to continue doing it. Then you don't need to go ahead and advise or forbid, that this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing it. If you already know that this person is only doing it temporarily and is going to correct his way because he's already God-fearing, God-conscious, he's just sinning right now, but he would not continue doing it, then you should hold back and you should not go ahead and start advising him. Number two, the wrongdoer must be aware that their actions are actually in fact haram. If they don't know what is haram, what is halal, then that also does not make you go ahead and advise them, right? So those are the 5 conditions that must be met. And given those conditions, one of the scholars, Sheikh Hashim actually said, he's one of the greatest fuqaha, by the way, in Shaykh history, he has mentioned that al-kalam is the greatest type of amar bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. What does that mean? It means basically you're clothing yourself with good acts. You are being a role model you're role modeling the behavior. You're staying away from haram or makruh things, and you're protecting yourself with an honorable akhlaq. You're cleansing yourself from sinful qualities. And this is the most motivating form for others to do good and avoid evil. And especially if it is matched with kindness and effective advice, if you're polite about it, if you're not rude and mean and telling people what to do and what not to do, then this is the most motivating and the greatest type of amar bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. Now we have to be mindful that every situation requires a different advice and every illness requires a different medicine, right? So bear in mind that medicine of hearts and minds is more delicate than the medicine of bodies. So definitely, if should someone do this, they surely have performed the highest type of amar bil ma'ruf. So one narration, we've talked about the benefits as well, but just to re-emphasize the importance of doing this action, Rasulullah has actually said, whoever enjoins good and prohibits evil is the deputy of Allah and the deputy of his prophet on the earth. So how amazing, like a person who performs these 2 actions is like a representative of Allah and his prophet on this earth. So all the more reason to perform this, but just keep in mind those conditions that we talked about. Again, the Quran also tells us that the best community is the one that encourages each other to do good and avoid evil. Again, this is from chapter number 3, verse number 110. Now, what are some ways to do it? We've talked about the importance as well, and we've talked about the conditions, but what are some of the ways? How can you do it? Let's say if someone is doing something sinful or a wrongful act, what can you do? Number one, you can, display some heartfelt version. What does that mean? You can turn your head away. You can stop speaking to that person, to show your displeasure to that act. Number two, you can verbally advise them and guide them, right? So number one was really to yourself. You didn't speak anything. You just stopped speaking to that person and you displayed your displeasure. Number two is actually verbally speaking to that person and telling him that this is wrong, this is right, please stay away from this, and stuff. Number three, which is like the highest level, I would say, is physical enforcement, right? And what does that mean? That means that you're imprisoning the wrongdoer, you're basically punishing the other person. But again, this can only be done by the authorities or with the permission of the highest religious authority of the time, right? So Marja, Grand Maharaja, those people. So it is really important that you also go to these levels sequentially. So the first level, heartfelt aversion. Nothing happens as a result of that, go to the second level. You're basically verbally advising them. Number three is when nothing works, the matter does not yield any result, then you have to gradually increase the severity, right? So Only if the first two things do not work, that is displaying heartfelt aversion or verbally talk to the person advising them. If it doesn't work, they prove ineffective, then you progress to the physical level. We're actually trying to imprison the wrongdoer, like I said, physically enforcing the good, enforcing the other person to actually stay away from the evil act and perform the good acts. Again, like I said, the condition is this has to be done by the authority, or you should have the ijaza or the permission from the highest scholar, Grand Marja. So another nice thing about this act is whenever a person invites another person to do something good, both of them actually get their reward, right? So but if a person does not stop someone from doing something bad when they have power to, they both may be punished, right? So it goes both ways. But again, if you are inviting someone to do something good, you will definitely both be rewarded. In case where you're not actually stopping someone from doing something bad, then you both have the power to do so, right? Then you may be punished. So we have to realize the importance that it is our responsibility, and when does it become wajib on you, or not why, but when is it important for you to actually perform these two actions, right? Let's consider a story, for example. Because the Ahlul Bayt are our role model, let's learn from them. This is a story of our second and third Imam, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain. They were quite young and they saw an old man performing wudu. They realized that he was not performing the wudu in the correct way. So they wanted to correct him, but at the same time, they also did not want the old man to feel embarrassed because he was old. He may find this rude or mean. So they approached the old man and they told him that we're two brothers and we want you to be the judge between us as to whose wudu is correct. So the old man agreed. Okay, yeah, sure, why not? And so both the imams, they performed wudu in the correct manner, and the old man was watching them very carefully. And here, all of a sudden, he realized that the children were trying to show him the correct way of performing wudu, right? And they were being very kind and direct and very gentle about it. So after this was over, he said, "You are both correct. I was wrong." He realized that it was them trying to teach him, and he was very, very thankful and grateful to understand his shortcoming, and he thanked them and walked away. So again, this gives us a very good way and method to advise someone of how to do a certain thing in the right way without insulting them, without making them feel embarrassed about it, right? So we should really try to find creative ways, and so that we can actually stay within the first two levels of Omar bil Mahdu, which is like displaying heartfelt version and verbally guiding folks. By the way, one of the objectives of Imam Hussain for opposing, or one of the reasons of Imam Hussain for opposing Yazid was that he said, like, it's a code, I want to enjoin good and forbid evil. So imagine when you're trying to perform these two acts, if you can remember that your Imam also did that in Karbala, that was the reason why he opposed Yazid. It will give you more ma'rifah and more reward as well. Again, a key thing to remember is that Amar bil Ma'ruf, a lot of people might think that, it's Amar bil Ma'ruf, why are we interfering in other people's life? Well, it shouldn't be considered that, because it's actually trying to make the lives of the people in our community better. You're not trying to interfere, you're not trying to intrude in anyone's personal matter. You're just trying to make sure that everyone has a chance to get better. And that's why we had those conditions. If you think that that person is not going to get better at all, you're not supposed to go ahead and advise them. It's not about picking a fight. If you think that there is a danger, or if your life is in danger, or you will be injured or harmed in any way, you're not supposed to go ahead and do this, right? That's why those conditions are there. And we have to make sure that those conditions are met before we can go ahead and perform these two actions of Furwadi. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to pause here. And I'm going to wrap this up. We talked about what Amar bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar is. So basically, they're part of Furwadi and our wajib. And it basically really means encouraging others to do good deeds. And Nahi anil Munkar means forbidding others from committing bad deeds. As simple as that. Then we talked about the importance of this concept. We said how important it was, not just from the religious point of view, but it's actually a great way to make sure that people are becoming better, right? We are actually these two actions can actually help a family, a group of friends, or a community become better. And then lastly, we talked about the conditions, and we talked about the methods of how these two actions must be performed. They have to be performed at 3 levels. Number 1, heartfelt aversion. Number 2, verbally guiding and advising the others. And then number 3 is physical enforcement. We talked about that. And we talked about how they should be performed sequentially. So you should always go ahead with the less severe option and then gradually make your way if there are no results because of that. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much for listening to our 4th lecture today in this series of Ramadan 2022. I hope that you are able to gain some knowledge. Please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to contact Bab al-Ilm on their website. Send us questions if you have any. I appreciate your patience and your eagerness to learn these topics here. I definitely am blessed and honored to be talking to you. And may Allah reward us and guide us towards the righteous path. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.